Hi guys, today we are going to look at working with sprints in Kelloo. Sprint Apple in the CRM project has 3 resources currently assigned to the sprint. Arav is assigned 50 points of work per week, so over the 2-week sprint that equates to 100 points of work. Just a quick heads up about entering work in points. Take a look at Sprint Red in the Kelloo project. We have some work entered in points, some in days, and some work entered in FTE. So if you would rather define work in days or FTE, you can do. The sprint capacity bar shows us how full the sprint is. Sprint Apple has a capacity of 400 points and currently 280 points are assigned. Remember, the 280 points total is based on the work assigned to the resources. Click on the sprint capacity bar to edit the sprint. The sprint capacity is an estimate I enter based on how much work I think the team can complete in this sprint. So I'm expecting the team to complete around 400 points. You can enter the sprint capacity in days or points. The sprint team is the set of resources assigned to the sprint. I want to dive a little deeper into the figures you see here. Supply days is how many days availability the resource has through the sprint period. This is based on things like their normal working patterns and any time off or vacation they have booked. Sprint work shows us how much work the resource has been allocated in the sprint. Sarah has been assigned 80 points, which equates to 8 days work. We can compare this to her supply days and see that she has potentially the capacity for another 20 points of work, which equates to 2 days work. And we can see that Lisa has not currently been assigned any work in the sprint. So now let's assign some work to Lisa. If we check the sprint capacity again, we can see it's now 83% full. And we can see Lisa has the capacity to still take on more work. Up to now, we've been focusing on just one sprint and the capacity of the resources to work on the sprint. But in reality, people could end up working on multiple sprints or projects at the same time. So Kelloo also lets you check on the overall utilization status of your resources, taking into account all the projects and sprints they are working on. When we open the resource status panel, we can see period by period the utilization of our resources. The utilization is based on the resource's underlying capacity versus how much work is allocated to them. Currently, all looks good. No resources are overutilized. But watch what happens if I move Sprint Orange to start a week earlier. We now have utilization issues across our resources as we have allocated them too much work for the period. So while the sprint capacity is still okay, moving Sprint Orange a week earlier will cause overutilization issues for our resources. So when sprint planning in Kelloo, you need to monitor 2 things: the capacity of the sprint versus the amount of work in the sprint, and the capacity and utilization of your resources, taking into account other things they may be working on. That's all for today, guys. Happy planning.